Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What do we have here, y'all? What do we... Oh, that's Nolan right there, y'all.
Two people remember the last minute. Anyone can account for Nolan Wells differently. Warren says Nolan was called back to the boat and answered out loud, no, he was staying. He'd ride in with somebody else. Katie's version doesn't contain that. She says she heard the group calling for Nolan and assumed he was getting ready to go back with them. She never describes hearing him answer. Same minute, same stretch of beach. Two accounts that don't agree on the one sentence that may have decided everything after it. None of this is a claim that Katie did anything wrong. But this week, something changed. We learned who else was on her boat. People who, until now, were a blank space in the public record. Start with what's actually confirmed, because it's less than most people assume. By multiple accounts, Nolan spent part of his final confirmed hours with Katie. Warren's version has Nolan called to get back on the boat, and answering that he was staying with her and would ride in with somebody else. That version has been repeated so often it's become the accepted story. Katie's account doesn't contain that moment. Her sister said early on that Katie believed Nolan was getting ready to board the boat he'd arrived on, that she heard the group calling for him, and assumed, reasonably, that they wouldn't leave without him. Later, Katie reportedly told Christine something consistent with that Nolan intended to head back and rejoin his friends. She never describes hearing him refuse. That matters. These aren't two strangers remembering something from across a room. They're the two people closest to Nolan in his final confirmed minutes, and only one version contains the sentence, "Everybody now repeats." There's a detail in Warren's own telling worth slowing down for. By his account, Nolan and Katie weren't standing apart on the island when the call came. They were sitting together on a boat. A friend called for Nolan, and Nolan answered from where he was sitting, which raises a basic question nobody has answered. Which boat was he already on? The one that left at 4:31, or a different one? Those are two different scenarios. He was already sitting on a boat and refused to move to another one, is not the same as he was standing on the island and declined to board at all. The public record has never walked through that distinction. And underneath it is something simpler that nobody has reconstructed either. If he was sitting with her when his name was called, what happened physically in the next few seconds? Did he get up at all? Or did the moment just pass, his friends moving on without waiting, Katie staying where she was, and neither of them registering that it was the last real decision point of the day? Not what he said, what he did after he heard his name. There is an ordinary explanation for the gap between the two accounts. Katie may simply not have heard him. Engines were running, people were spread out. It was an unremarkable moment that only became important hours later, and memory works differently once you know an ordinary minute was the last one. So the discrepancy doesn't tell us who's right. It tells us something smaller and more honest. Nobody has established what happened in those seconds. Her account has also stayed consistent. Her sister's early description and Christine's later account of what Katie told her follow the same basic sequence, months apart, through separate channels. Consistency isn't proof, but it's worth noting when you're comparing accounts, because the other account has changed. Early on, the public understanding was that nobody in Nolan's group knew Katie, a stranger he'd met that day. Later, it emerged that at least one person connected to the group had her number and was texting her that night, asking where Nolan was. Which raises the obvious problem. If you didn't know her, how did you have her number? When Nancy Grace put that question to the group's attorney, the response challenged the premise rather than explaining how the number was obtained. Then there's the 11:07 call. Christine has said Warren called her that night and told her Nolan had met a girl named Katie and chosen to stay behind. By her account, he didn't tell her the group had already contacted Katie. If that contact had already happened, it's a significant omission. There's a real difference between we don't know where Nolan is and we've already spoken to the person he stayed with, and a mother being told her son didn't come home is exactly who you'd tell. One more piece of that timeline has never been filled in publicly. Katie's account doesn't clearly describe watching the boat leave. If she was close enough to hear the group calling for him, it's fair to ask what she saw when they actually departed, especially with GPS data confirming a specific departure time. That isn't evidence of wrongdoing. It's another gap in a minute nobody has fully reconstructed. And now we know there were more people around that moment than the public realized.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What do we have here, y'all? What do we... Oh, That's Nolan right there, y'all. That's Nolan right there. I'm trying to do it slow for y'all. This one of them breeze by. You know how they do the little boomerang thing on Instagram and all. It's one of those. Y'all, I woke up to a lot this morning. We got a lot of lies being disproved. And we got more video footage, y'all. And I want y'all to let me know. Do y'all think this is real? Or do y'all think this is AI? I don't think it's AI at all. Because when y'all see this, y'all ain't gonna see no 6 fingers and 2 arms and all of that. Everything looks in line. Before we get into it, y'all make sure y'all hit that hype button. Make sure you like the video. And make sure for those that's in the back, stuck in their ways, you never hit no buttons, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Check this out, y'all.
Yes, sister, friend, I will share a longer version. I'm going to add it to this one. But the purpose of this video, I couldn't even sleep last night because I was trying to put A, B, C together. So this picture, the video, excuse me, on June the 23rd helps in a lot of ways because Warren stated in all of the videos in his interviews that they were a tight-knit group of people. And he also said that there were around 20 to 30 people scattered in those 3 or 4 different boats that they had taken, correct? Okay, so
we seeing this one?
The trip on June the 23rd, per Warren, are a tight-knit group of people, would be the same people that we saw inside this picture.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What do we have here, y'all? What do we... Oh. That's Nolan right there, y'all. That's Nolan right there. I'm trying to do it slow for y'all. This one of them breeze by. You know how they do the little boomerang thing on Instagram and all. It's one of those. Y'all see that? So I want y'all to pay attention to see everybody. I'm gonna see who that is in the front. Y'all see this? That's Nolan. That is Nolan. I'm trying to see who it. So you got all these damn people ain't saying nothing. This is wild. 1, 2, 3. There's somebody right here in the cut. There's somebody right here. Somebody right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's somebody at the front of a driver. 5, 6, 7. Justice for Nolan, man. Let's get it, y'all. Look, 2 right there. Hold on.
So
2
that
up
is
there.
where I'm.
2 up there.
So that is.
Look, 2 up there. Just enjoying the breeze and shit. That's sad, man. Sad, man.
So that is where I'm going with the video because Warren, again, said that they were a tight-knit group of friends. Like there's no outsiders in their circle. And so the same people that are on that video on June the 23rd are the same people that are in that still image on Horns Island, allegedly Horns Island, that we see here.
I found them. I found all the people that were on Katie's boat, y'all. Shout out to the real Jada J that turned me on to this picture. And as y'all can see, we've got a match with the necklace and the swimsuit. Think I busted out my glasses and red lipstick just for the swimsuit? Nah. Now, as I talked about yesterday, we've all suspected that this is Kendall for a while now. The identity of this curly-haired girl has always eluded us. Well, not anymore, folks. For now, I'm gonna just refer to these girls as T and L. As you can see, L clearly has the same kind of hair texture that's in the bottom of this picture. We know that these two were together on 4th of July, and T did not 1, but 2 Nolan tributes after his body was found. Now, another one of their friends had a reel, which they did a little panning video on the best 4th of July ever. And who was in that video? Well, that looks to me to be Jacob. Kendall's longtime boyfriend. So it seems confirmation to me that both Kendall and her boyfriend were on this boat the entire day. Now that I have found this group of friends, I was scouring the pictures and I found this. We've got Elle with somebody I immediately recognized because I remembered that swimsuit and they tried to hide this picture in a document dump so you didn't know what day it was. Well, if it isn't Nevaeh.
Oh, she back! She back!
Same swimsuit, same belly ring, and there she is clearly earlier in the day with Kendall, clearly on the same boat. And just in case you didn't see my video on the Tube of You yesterday, or just need a reminder, here was the friend group breakdown that I had. But to me, this seemingly clearly confirms that these two were on this boat probably all day. I say this because there's another picture from the summer with Nevaeh with the little pink cup right here. You can see the pink cup in the lap of Kendall up here, along with the matching, poles and this, all of it matches. Now I want to go back to this picture because in the background there, we see somebody seemingly approaching the group to join them to go out in red shorts. And y'all know that I've been saying for a while that in my humble opinion, I believe that the person in red shorts is Warren's brother. But now I also think there's a strong possibility that it could be Lainey's boyfriend, Drew. Just as further confirmation, these glasses match the glasses that are in the Katie Snapchat. I think it's pretty safe to say that we definitely found the people that were on the boat with Katie. Now here's where it gets a little interesting to me though. Look at how late in the day this picture seems to be taken. And they clearly were still out at night. So did they drop everybody else off? Did they come back out? Got a lot of unknowns here, but I did my social media scour. And let me explain to you what I found. So we've got Elle and T on the boat with Kendall and Nevaeh, like we've confirmed that. We also know at some point Katie was on the boat with them as well. T was the only one that seemed to be connected to Nolan on social media. Now remember how the person who released the Snapchat pictures of Katie said that they were not friends with her? Well, I found that T was actually connected to a lot of people social media wise, whether they were following her or she was following them. I was able to find Javon. I was able to find Ava D, the girl from the party. I was able to find the entire Hudson family, as well as Katie, Lainey, Trin, Ava, all of the other friend group, the core group that I talked about yesterday. And I found out that Elle was either following or was followed by Ava, Jax, and Bart. Now here's the real kicker. When I went to T's Book of Face page, I found out that she was FB friends with not only Warren's mom, but Bart's mom as well, and several other adults that are close friends with that mom group. And I also found out that Lainey and Nevaeh are both friends with the older McGrath brother, but it seems like he was in Texas at the time, so most likely he was not on the boat or around for this. However, he does have a younger brother who is friends with T on social media. And that makes me wonder if the younger McGrath brother might have been on that boat. Now remember, Lainey said that she was not on Horn Island. She was with a different group of friends on a different island altogether. But now I'm wondering if this boat, this group, might have been the other group that they got into the altercation with. Because remember, they specifically said that they knew the guy, like knew of him, but they weren't like friends with him. Because does nobody else think it's weird that whoever else they were fighting on the beach hasn't come forward? Especially if they were people that didn't really know these people? But could this boat have been the fourth boat that we've seen? Because if this is the same red shorts guy, then how did he get onto the other boat?
Here's what actually changed this week. Independent researchers went back through old social media posts and matched physical detail across separate images. A swimsuit, a necklace, a belly ring, a distinctive pink cup, visible in a lap in one photo and in a hand in another. Those comparisons identified the group that was on the boat with Katie. They also surfaced a video from June 23rd, weeks before the 4th, showing the same broader group, the tight-knit circle Warren described in his own interviews, roughly 20 to 30 people spread across 3 or 4 boats. Give that work its due. It isn't a claim about anyone's behavior or intent. It's a match between visible objects and images anyone can go check, and matched physical detail is one of the more verifiable things in open source research. And it changes something. Until this week, Katie's boat was a blank space. It isn't anymore. There are people who can be identified, whose presence can be checked, who may have seen or heard things nobody else did. Several of those images also appear to be taken late in the day, with the group still out on the water at night. Which raises a question worth asking plainly. Did they drop people off and come back out? Not one person from that identified group has given a public first-hand account of anything. There's a principle worth applying consistently here. the last people known to be around someone, aren't automatically suspects. They're witnesses, and witnesses get interviewed. That applies to Katie. It applies to Nolan's friends. It applies to the people now identified on that boat. What matters isn't whether any of them look suspicious. It's whether their accounts can help rebuild the missing minutes. We're also not repeating the online theories about Katie's identity. None of them meet the same verification standard, and they concern a real private young woman. They stay out. Who was there, where they were, what they saw. That's what's checkable. There's one more thing that may eventually answer questions no account can. Christine has said her family recovered Nolan's phone and that some messages appeared to be missing. His 2 Snapchat accounts held nothing from the relevant period, not the 4th, not the day after. On its own, that has ordinary explanations. Spotty service, a phone kept away from salt water, a day that broke the habit. But raised in coverage of this case is a more specific point, and it's the one that doesn't fit those explanations. Snapchat pushes an automated holiday message to its users, a happy 4th of July notification that requires nothing from the person receiving it. You don't opt in. You don't have to open the app, post anything, be awake, be on land, or be in cell range for it to land. By that account, it's gone too. That's a different category of absence. User content is missing when the user doesn't create any. An automated system message is missing for some other reason. And he didn't post. What Christine's family described is what they saw on a screen. That's a first-hand account from the people closest to it, and it's serious. It is not a forensic examination, and no public forensic report on that device has been released. So the family is going after the records behind the apps. They've subpoenaed platforms including Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Those records don't depend on what happened to appear on a screen in someone's possession. If something existed and was deleted, server-side records may establish that. If it never existed, that matters too. They've moved a second disputed piece of evidence the same direction. The family has hired an independent audio engineer to formally examine the distress call. People have spent weeks listening to that recording and arguing about what they hear. Listening isn't a forensic method. The file itself has to be examined. No findings have been released. The commissioning is the development, not the result. Two things that have lived on interpretation are being moved somewhere interpretation doesn't decide the outcome. Ashley Cole, the stepmother of Warren Hudson, posted a second public statement this week. We're not reducing it to a headline. Here it is in full, exactly as she wrote it. We have decided that we will not be speaking to the press at this time. The media is not the appropriate forum to further elaborate on the facts of July 4th, 2026. We realize that the truth will not stop the calls for the death of our small children. We have not had the opportunity to speak to the Wells-Wansley family or their attorney. However, we are willing to directly communicate with attorney Ben Crump and the Wells-Wansley family. We will provide them with all the proper information known to us so their family can rest and properly mourn. We also want to know what happened to Nolan. We will do everything within our power to assist Nolan's family in their quest for answers. The important part isn't the tone, it's what she offered to do. She names a specific channel, Ben Crump by name, and Nolan's family directly, not a vague line about cooperating with authorities, and she states on the record that they want to know what happened to Nolan too. That's worth taking at face value. But an offer isn't information delivered. She says they haven't had the opportunity to speak to Nolan's family or their attorney, and nearly in the same breath says they'll provide all the proper information known to us. So the question is simple. Does that conversation actually happen? Because if it does, the value won't be another public statement. It'll be whatever the people connected to that boat can tell Nolan's family and investigators directly. A commentary segment this week alleged that Mississippi's governor is personally friends with the parent of someone connected to this case, and that this explains early statements about there being no foul play. We checked it. There's a documented public record of the governor commenting on the investigation, and of his later criticism of Ben Crump and Reverend Al Sharpton. What we did not find, from any outlet, was evidence establishing the alleged personal relationship. That doesn't prove no such relationship exists. It means the claim hasn't been demonstrated. And that's the standard. The same test that credited the photo research when it produced verifiable matches has to apply when a theory produces nothing verifiable. Otherwise, we're not investigating. We're selecting the evidence that fits the story we already believe. 3 weeks ago, Jackson attorney Ahmad Smith joined Nolan's family's legal team, working alongside Ben Crump and the NAACP Office of Legal Counsel on an independent investigation. His team is receiving enough tips that they've set up a dedicated 800 number for this case. That's where information belongs, not comment sections, not anonymous theories, with people who can actually follow it. Because after everything this week, it still comes back to the same place. Nolan was with Katie. His friends called for him. One account says he answered and chose to stay. Katie's account doesn't include that answer. And now we know she wasn't alone on that boat. There's still one voice missing. Katie has never told this publicly in her own words. Everything attributed to her has come through someone else. Her sister, Christine, describing a private conversation, the friend group describing messages. That doesn't make her account false. It means the public has never heard it from her. Until that changes, or investigators disclose what she's told them, the last minute stays exactly where it was when we started. 2 accounts, a departure time, a boat we can finally identify, a phone waiting on records, and a handful of seconds nobody has reconstructed. One more thing from this week. Smith met Nolan's parents last week, at a gathering held for what would have been his 19th birthday. Asked how they seemed, he didn't describe them as broken. He said that despite the grief, their disposition seemed hopeful, that they're trusting the team they've built around them. Sit with that for a second. 2 months of contradictions, unanswered questions, and missing data, and the 2 people at the center of it are described by someone who sat with them as hopeful. Nolan Xavier Wells was 18 years old. He was supposed to come home that 4th of July.